the ripple effect of Big Sam coming in is all of a sudden Arsenal fans have a little bit of a pep in their step. They're like, hold on, Big Sam, away from home, battling relegation. Fuck it, 2 banks of 4, big man up front. Even if they get a point, that's one game. That's one game they've dropped points. They only need one more to go. Like that type of thing. All of a sudden, the confidence for Arsenal goes up, whereas the confidence for Leeds would almost go up as well, despite Big Sam not actually being that good of a manager in the current circumstances, obviously with the record being 1 in 5 games when they have 4 games to go. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the TFTPod podcast. I'm your host Ari Stamatakos, back again for another week, episode 35 of season 2, getting into the real business end of the season. Only a couple more episodes left until we're done for the main year. Obviously there'll be some podcasts in the off season as there was last year, but for the weekly episodes, I think we've only got about 4 weekly episodes left. So it's gonna be an interesting back into the season as things start to heat up. We've had some titles already decided, which we'll touch on this week. Firstly, actually, before we touch on the rundown, my mistake. How was everyone's week? I hope everyone's week was good. I feel like that's a good way to start things off. I enjoyed my weekend. It was nice and chill. Chelsea did a football win. I can't believe it. Not only did we do a football win, we did football goals. Chelsea did football goals. 3 of them, in fact. 3 of them. Which, I mean, I didn't know what to do with myself. I've seen Chelsea win Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues, and this was probably the hardest I've ever celebrated. So that was fun and weird at the same time. So yeah, I enjoyed my weekend. Chelsea actually won a game of football. So there you go. But obviously it's been relatively uneventful since we last spoke. Not a lot to speak about, which is probably going to lend to this podcast being slightly shorter than normal. I say that, watch it still tick over an hour because I just can't shut up. But yeah, not quite. I hope everyone's well. I hope everyone did enjoy their weekend or did enjoy their week since we last spoke. The reception on the podcast has been great. I really appreciate it as we finish up the second, really the second year, second season, but really season and a half considering I started in January of last year, but it is what it is. And what else am I going to say? Oh yeah, 2 more subscribers away from 400. That's it. 200 away from 400. So if that could happen, surely by the end of the season we'd be able to get it right. Hopefully. It would mean the world if we did. It would truly mean the world. So there you go. That's all in terms of the formalities out of the way, I think, anyway. Make sure you subscribe, of course. Like, notification bell, do all that good stuff. Or for the vanity metrics sake, it would mean the world. And then socials, TFTPod podcast on TikTok and Instagram, TFTPod on Twitter. Linktree link in the bio of both Twitter and Instagram, and of course all the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. There you go. That's probably the cleanest plug I've ever done. The cleanest rundown of all the socials I've ever done. So yeah, what are we going to touch on today? Not a lot. We're going to touch on, like I said, title race chat, Big Sam chat, kind of summarising what's to come in the next month. Napoli win the Scudetto, which is good. We'll touch on that a little bit. And we'll touch on Big Ange Postecoglou as well to finish up the European football chat. 2 titles decided over the weekend, which is good. And then we'll move on to A-League chat. Quite a few things happening in the A-League, so we might touch on that for a little bit longer. I don't know. We'll see. And then, of course, preview of the week. Champions League football is back this week, which is massive. Absolutely massive. I can't wait. Can't wait for that. So let's kick things off, shall we? Are we done? Have I done the formalities? I think I have. Let's kick things off. Let's kick things off, shall we? We'll touch on Big Sam. We'll touch on Big Sam as a conjoining point around the title. I think that's a good way to do it. So obviously, like we're going to finish things up. We're going to start things off, I should say. As we're going to start off most of these podcasts, or the rest of these podcasts until the end of the season, pretty much. Let's touch on the title race and what are the permutations or the results and what they mean. The results over the weekend and what they mean for the title. Of course, since we last spoke, obviously Arsenal played midweek and they won. City but played midweek and they won. So both teams won, which I thought Arsenal would lose. I did predict it. I've got the Chelsea top on, the retro Chelsea top. I did think Chelsea would win, but unfortunately it wasn't meant to be. The title race, it's still clinging on by an absolute thread. City need to drop points in 2 more games for it to happen, and we'll touch on their final 4 games and the potential for those things to happen. I think it's quite funny. But Arsenal have 3 games left, and they've got 3 quite winnable games. Brighton probably being the hardest one, but it is at home, so there you go. Arsenal beat Chelsea 3-1 quite convincingly. Sick, that was great. And then and City beat West Ham 3-0 quite convincingly as well. So that pretty much leveled things up in terms of the title race. And then a couple of days later, City hosted Leeds 1-2-1. We'll touch on the game a little bit more. And then Arsenal went up to Newcastle in a game in which cost them top 4 last year, and they at least wrote that wrong. They fixed that wrong. I don't know. You know what I mean. They avenged. That's the word I'm trying to look for. They avenged their loss last year, and then of course they got the 2-0 victory. Where do we touch here? Where do we touch on from here? Let's speak on City and Leeds. But I want to speak on a couple of things. I'm going to write them down. So I don't forget. So I want to speak on Big Sam and that whole and what's happening with that. I want to speak on City's run home, and that's probably actually the 2 main things. And maybe just a sub. Yeah, they're probably the 2 main things. Just about what that game was. So of course, City went into this game thinking. I mean, if you spoke to City maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, you would be looking at this Leeds game thinking, yeah, we'll breeze past Leeds at home, we'll win 4-0, we'll be convincing, right? And while it still probably should have been that, the arrival of Big Sam caused a bit of a stir. Now, actually, we'll start with Big Sam because I think it leads into the title race chat. It leads into it for a reason in which I'll explain. But yeah, so Big Sam comes in for Leeds, which is the funniest thing in the world because obviously the stat was going around on Twitter that Leeds have 4 games to go to save their season. They bring in a manager who has a Premier League record of roughly one win every 5 games, which is the most ironic. The most ironic bit about that obviously is that historically he won't win a game for the rest of the season, which basically rents his appointment redundant. But Big Sam is obviously a manager who is very experienced in this sphere. In terms of the relegation sphere, Big Sam is very experienced. He is a manager that knows what he's doing. You'd like to think so anyway. In saying that, his last Premier League job was relegating West Brom. So I don't really know the rationale behind it of too much. They obviously got rid of Marsh, brought in the new guy. Can't remember his name. Don't even ask me because I haven't looked it up and I can't remember it. And I can guarantee you don't remember it either. Whoever you are listening, you don't know who Leeds' manager was. I can guarantee you that. Leeds got rid of him, and then obviously they brought in Big Sam. Now, what you have with Leeds, right? Leeds got rid of their best ever manager in Marcelo Bielsa. Maybe not best ever, but at least in modern times, one of their best ever managers in Marcelo Bielsa. He was a football mastermind, a football genius that had the ability to kind of revamp and like change the way that Leeds historically played and kind of revamp that whole football club. It was a masterstroke appointment, right? And it was a masterstroke not only appointment, but a person to bring into your football club and actually keep them, your football club, right? He obviously got them up after a couple of goes, kept them up in their first year quite well, and of course, kept them up in the first year quite well, and then this was their first year, I think, anyway. Maybe the second year, I don't know. But they of course got rid of him. I think. I can't remember. No, it was. This is the second year, I think. Yeah, the second year without him, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, they of course got rid of him, brought in Jesse Marsh, and then of course Jesse Marsh has subsequently been sacked. So anyway, in essence, you have Bielsa, who we all know how Bielsa plays: high tempo, high octane, murder ball, all this type of shit, right? Which is good. It's a good way of playing football. It's obviously very pleasing on the eye. That is obviously something that was handed to Leeds in terms of their kind of credit, where credit wasn't really due. They get pelted 6-0 by United, and everyone will be like, "Oh, but how entertaining were Leeds?" I get that to a certain extent. Of course, it is a little bit different considering Like, there's a difference between entertaining and winning and entertaining and losing. And I think they were given a little bit of a free pass just because of the way that they played at times. Although I did enjoy it. And then of course they sack him, bring in Jesse Marsh, who has a very similar philosophy in terms of being high tempo, high energetic, game of possession or pressing based, I should say, counter pressing, direct football, etc., etc. Then they do probably the biggest the handbrake on 180 shift of a manager change ever, and bring in two banks of four, big man up top, big man up top, little man next to him, long ball up, crouch to foe kind of system in Big Sam Allardyce. Or as he insists on being called Sam Allardyce. Or if maybe not insists, but if he was called Sam Allardyce, what could have been? But anyway, the appointment was weird. The appointment was funny more than anything. And as a person who likes Leeds, the club, I respect them. I would want to see them in. The thing is, as a Chelsea supporter, obviously Chelsea and Leeds have a pretty big rivalry, and despite not knowing a lot about it till recently, I've developed a slight hatred for Leeds right naturally. However, there's something about them where I want them in the league, but I don't want them doing well. Like, if they could just float between that 14th and 17th rank every single year, that'd be grouse. That'd be great. But so I want them in the league, but I don't want them being too good. So it is one of those things. I don't see a world in which the arrival of Big Sam came with a lot of what? Like, it took a couple of days. And I think it took a couple of days, and it was like, is this actually going to happen? And then lo and behold, it did actually happen. I think this is a big kind of eye opener in terms of the mentality of most Premier League clubs in that bottom six kind of bracket. In that bottom six bracket, bottom eight bracket, teams who could go down, bottom seven even, and like what they value in a sense. Obviously, Leeds. This will tie into the title race. Trust me, it will. Basically, Leeds brought in a manager who was the complete antithesis to their last two managers. Personality wise, tactics wise, philosophy wise, complete antithesis. And it's because of the desperate need for them to stay up. Quickly, probably should have this either written down or remembered off the top of my head. They sit equal on points with Forest with a 7 better goal difference. But Forest and Everton, who are below them, have one game in hand. If both of them win that one game in hand, they will both leap Leeds, and Leeds will go down to 19th, and Leicester will join them. It's really tricky. Right now, because obviously there's ripple effects, right? There's ripple effects, and this is a great segue. There's ripple effects in the kind of way in which the league functions. I think there's been 7 managers who have started the season who are still currently managing. I think there's been around about 13 managerial changes. There are a couple of clubs with 3 different managers. Chelsea are one of them, 3 different managers this season. Leeds are another one, 3 different managers this season. Not Forest. Bournemouth, I think, have had 3 different managers this season. So, yeah, I think it was Bournemouth anyway. Unless it was... No, it wasn't Forest. Southampton, sorry, not Bournemouth. Southampton. Southampton have had 3 different managers this season. That's who it was. So you've had a couple of clubs with 3 different managers, meaning that there's ripple effects that carry on throughout the league. And one big ripple effect is what happens with the title, obviously, because Leeds' first game is against Man City, who obviously have a storyline in their own right. And obviously, a big part of that Man City storyline is the Arsenal storyline. And Arsenal, all of a sudden, are looking at Man City's fixtures, are looking at a game against Leeds at home on midday or on the midday 3 p.m. kickoffs at home against Leeds. Notoriously, under their old manager, you would think, yeah, Man City would win that comfortably, right? Like, there's no real kind of aim to get our hopes up, because obviously it's just built for City to smash Leeds for 5-0. But the ripple effect of Big Sam coming in is all of a sudden Arsenal fans have a little bit of a pep in their step. They're like, hold on, Big Sam, away from home, battling relegation, fuck it, 2 banks of 4, big man up front, even if they get a point, that's one game. That's one game they've dropped points. They only need one more to go. Like that type of thing. All of a sudden, the confidence for Arsenal goes up, whereas the confidence for Leeds would almost go up as well, despite Big Sam not actually being that good of a manager in the current circumstances. Obviously, with the record being 1 in 5 games when they have 4 games to go. It's quite a funny narrative shift. It is a very funny narrative shift, and I think it was very poignant. Speaking to Arsenal fans and observing kind of behaviours on social media and stuff, how all of a sudden Big Sam coming in, and then it's not only the Big Sam result, right? Because City looked fallible, right, in that game. They didn't look great. They were okay, but they didn't look great. All of a sudden it goes to, hold on, they go away to Everton. Everton battling relegation. Sean Dyche at the helm. Could they get a point? Could they scrape a point? And then all of a sudden it goes from, could they scrape a point? If Everton do scrape a point, they've got Chelsea, Brentford and Brighton. 3 very tough games. So in the traditional sense, 3 tough games. So it's quite funny how I think the ripple effect of a managerial appointment from the team that is 17th in the league can have such a drastic narrative and morale shift for the title race based on purely vibes. I think it's a fascinating development, right? I think it is really fascinating because Arsenal fans are also had in their mind that we've gone on a poor run, but Newcastle's the one where it ends. And then all of a sudden they beat Newcastle, and it's like, okay, we've got Brighton at home. We can beat Brighton at home, and then all of a sudden they got Forest and Wolves, 2 teams that they should beat, right? So now all of a sudden they're kind of manufacturing this facade pressure on Man City, because Man City fans and the team and Pep and the players would not have felt any less confident versing Sam Allardyce, right? Any less confident. It is such a mental thing, right? Like literally mental. I'm not talking about the adjective, the verb, I think. I hope I got that right. Like a purely mental thing where it's like, yeah, but what if type thing, right? I think it was very fascinating, and it's fascinating how, if you would ask Arsenal fans at the start of the year, Big Sam was your like this is what makes me crease about what's happening. Arsenal fans are now relying on they relied on these 5 managers, right? 5 managers to do them a solid. The 5 managers: Sam Allardyce, Sean Dyche, Frank Lampard, Roberto De Zerbi, and Thomas Frank. You have 5 managers who are so like. You have obviously the 3. So you have Dyche and Allardyce, the same bloke. They are the same bloke, literally the exact same person, right? Allardyce and Dyche, almost identical. You have De Zerbi and Frank, who aren't as similar as Dyche and Allardyce, but are still quite similar in terms of their philosophies, their modern approaches to the game, their quite charismatic nature, and their modern hipster style football, etc. Right? And then you have Lampard, who floats in the middle of those 2 brackets, but is just doesn't fit. He's in his own bracket, but he fits into both. Like, he's more of a hipster, tries to play modern football, but he's also Brexit ball, like do the simple stuff, all that shit, right? So it's quite funny how Arsenal fans are relying on those 5 managers. Obviously, Big Sam was the first man to fall and to fail. Dyche, Lampard, Frank, De Zerbi. Obviously, like it's obvious that the 2 managers that are most likely to get points off City are De Zerbi and Frank, right? It is so obvious because they're the 2 best managers out of those 4. But there's always that inkling. It goes back to that thing of if you ask Arsenal fans, it's such a fascinating thing, right? If you ask Arsenal fans or just fans of a team who are in that position, who would you want managing Man City? Who would you want managing against Man City for those 4 games? They would rather take 4 Sean Dyches or 4 Sam Allardyces than 4 Roberto De Zerbis, I think. Or a lot of fans probably would. For I don't know for what reason, because De Zerbi's obviously such a better manager and obviously has such a better chance of taking points off Pep. So it's funny how like the Leeds managerial shift can have such a drastic morale change at the top of the table. Obviously, that comes from a hope rather than a kind of tangible or rational kind of reasoning, which also is funny in its own sense, isn't it? Right? It's also funny in its own sense about what you value in a sense. What you value or what you look towards when the pressure's on. When the pressure's on, do you look towards vibes? Or like do you look towards kind of objective facts? Because when the pressure's on and you're looking at objective facts and statistics, it's managers like Roberto De Zerbi and Thomas Frank by a country mile. But it's not even close. It's not even close. But when you're looking at it from a narrative perspective and a historical perspective maybe and a purely intangible perspective, I wouldn't blame you for picking a manager like Sam Allardyce or Sean Dyche to kind of save your title hopes. But in reality, in the objective reality, I think as well, Man City will win every game until the end of the season, and it doesn't really matter because they're just that good. I have made bold claims in the past that like Man City won't drop points for the rest of the season. I think that may be a thing I said this season, which is funny. Or maybe that was last year. I think it was last year. So I said that. I also said something along the lines of, like, I think I've said countless times Arsenal are going to win the league, and obviously that's looking more and more unlikely as the weeks progress. But regardless of now I think there is so much gravitas to every single decision, purely out of hope. I think from a lot of Arsenal fans in particular, purely out of hope. If Big Sam comes in first game, backs against the wall, like I mentioned, and even the thing about Sean Dyche and Frank Lampard, it's like, right, okay, because Man City will go into every one of those games favourites. Man City will wipe the floor with Chelsea, and it's not even going to be funny. It's going to be 10-0. That's not going to be good at all, right? And then even still, City versus Everton, they should win that, right? They should win that. Statistically, they should win that. Statistically, Man City City have far bigger chance of beating Everton than they do a team like Fulham or a team like Brighton or a team like Brentford or a team like even like who's in the top half? Who's playing? Even like a Newcastle, right? Because obviously they're far worse, but you would always back the underdog team to kind of help you out in a sense, because they've obviously got something to play for, because Fulham have nothing to play for, right? They're not challenging for European football. They're just kind of languaging around that, like mid-table, same with Villa, right? So there's that, from one perspective, it's, yeah, they're the better team, but they have nothing to play for. Whereas Everton are by far the worst team, but they have something to play for. So maybe there's like that mentality shift there. I don't know. But yeah, obviously City played Leeds, which is probably the main crux of this story, or this kind of narrative in a sense. City played Leeds and won quite convincingly. It wasn't overly convincing. It was 2-0. 2-0 early on, I should say. 2-0 with inside half an hour. Ilkay Gundogan with both goals. Two very, very well taken goals. Mara's both assists. Breezy, right? And then, of course, a penalty comes in the 85th minute and misses. And then Leeds on the counter-attack. Leeds kind of on the counter-attack score through Rodrigo, and then and it goes back to that thing of within 50 seconds it can shift. Within 50 seconds, like any Arsenal fan watching that game goes from City have a penalty, it's going to be 3-0, game over. And then they miss, and then Rodrigo goes up the other end and scores within 30 seconds, and it's like, oh my god, we're back. The title's back on. Even though, in reality, it literally made no difference because City were just going to win the game anyway, because there's no way they're going to lose that. would be a massive outlier if they did. It's so fascinating. I find it fascinating anyway. But yeah, City are just a joke. Like, City are a joke. This 3-2-4-1 formation that they're playing with those two holding midfielders in midfield. John Stones has become the best defensive midfielder in the world. Inverted. Yeah, it's just stupidly good, utterly stupidly good, and it's fascinating how good they are. And obviously, the next day, Newcastle versus Arsenal. Newcastle versus Arsenal. It was a pretty fascinating game. Newcastle had the most of it. Newcastle probably 2-0 flat as Arsenal, I think. I think Newcastle could have gotten a lot more out of that game and probably should have gotten a lot more out of that game. I am looking at it from a perspective of Arsenal. They just need to get points. Like, now it's not about how well you play, just get points. Like maybe halfway through the season, you'd rather play well. Like, maybe, like, how many games do they have left? They've got... How many games do they have left? They've got 3 games left. If you ask Arsenal at the 9th game mark, would they rather have 6 points? Would they rather have 5? If I can't speak, that'd be great. Would they rather have 4 points but play exceptional football and get unlucky in their draw and loss? Or would they rather have 9 points and play terrible, god-awful, horrendous football? They'd probably take the former just because it would hold you in good stead for the future. But Arsenal just need to get points. Just get points. Like, they just need to get max points available. They'll finish the season on 90 points if they win all 3 of their games. City would need to drop points twice. 2 draws is good enough for Arsenal. 2 draws is good enough for Arsenal as long as they can catch up on goal difference. Actually, no. No, 2 draws will be good enough. 2 draws will be good enough. And the only way that... 2 draws will be good enough. There's no way they can finish on equal points, I don't think. They've got 4 games to go. If they... there's... Actually, no, they can. They can still finish on equal points if City win both of their games and draw 2 of them. That would... And then Arsenal win all of their games. That would put them on equal points. Would it? Yeah, it would. Okay. Actually, no, it wouldn't. I can't do maths. I tried to do maths last week and it was shit content, so I'm just going to stop doing maths. Fuck maths. I didn't do it in Year 12 for a reason. Okay. Some things are going to happen around the title race, which will make it interesting. I really hope I'm here next week speaking about how City drop points, because it would just make it so much more interesting, and I really need things to speak about. So, please, Everton and Sean, if you could do me a favour, that could be superb. If you're listening, firstly, if you're listening, subscribe and like to away from 400. That'd be great. Secondly, get a point at least, because it'd make my life a lot easier to speak for an hour about not a lot of football. Anyway, this is the part of the season where it's either really interesting because a lot's happening, or really boring because nothing's happening. Luckily, last year, shit was happening every week. It was great. Good content. This year, not so much, because Arsenal bottled it. But anyway, I digress. Are we finishing up on this topic? I think we are. Really, and I say nothing happened. I say nothing happened. Every week from here on in creates new storylines and creates new narratives, and you can find talking points throughout it, right? Because I think naturally the story of this season is very interesting. Very interesting. And I think, is it now where we need to retrospectively look back? Maybe it is now, because I don't see it going down to the final day. I truly don't, and I'm probably rehashing old ground here, but I don't see it going all the way until the final day. Do City drop points in 2 games? If I could speak, that'd be grouse. Look, I would be surprised, but I also wouldn't, in a sense, because Brighton can take points off City. Brighton are so good. Brighton are so good, right? Like, Brighton are really good. And I say this in full knowledge, knowing that they're going to play Everton tomorrow morning, and that result would have happened before this podcast comes out. Brighton should win that. But regardless, even if they don't, Brighton are very, very good. Like, they are a very good football team, right? And they're a side in which they are a victim, I think, of a little bit of a couple of things. I don't know how we're getting sidetracked onto Brighton, but fuck it, let's speak about Brighton. Why not? I was meant to speak about them last week, and I spoke for too long. So let's catch up. Let's speak about Brighton. Yeah, this isn't on the run sheet, but let's speak about Brighton. I think, let me just make sure to add this onto my notes in terms of, so I can chapter this. Sorry. Okay. Brighton, the thing is with Brighton, right? I think they're a victim of two things which are almost very similar, but still quite different in the same sense. I think they're a victim of their own success. The reason is Brighton are a team that aren't there yet. They're not there in terms of the reputation around the team, the intangible traditionalness about the team, if that makes any sense. I hope it does. They're not there yet. They're not a Spurs. They're not a Chelsea, City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Everton, Villa. They're not one of those teams yet. But they are at least the fourth best team in the country, football-wise. City, Arsenal, obviously top two. I think Newcastle. I think Newcastle are up there. Where are they right now? They're fifth. They're seventh. Brighton are so much better than Tottenham. It's not even funny. Like, Tottenham suck, right? I know they won, but they still suck. They're better than United at the current moment. I don't think they will in the future, but I think right now they're better than United. I think they're at least fifth, the fifth best team in the country. But they will always be. No, apologies. They will always be just that little bit off. Like, just that little bit off. Because of a couple of things. Firstly, it's if you picked up Brighton, if you literally picked up Brighton and just changed the badge and put a United badge on, changed the name, said Manchester United, changed the stadium, put him in Old Trafford, and change everything about the club that isn't football related, and change to Manchester United, they would be the best club in the world, right? They would win every trophy. They would absolutely be destroying everything. Because football department-wise, they're one of, if not the best in the country. Pound for pound. But the reason why I say they're a victim of their own success a little bit is because they outperform expectations to a point where everyone is, what are you doing? We're not going to try and copy what you're doing. We're just trying to make things harder for you by just taking out all your best assets. Cucurella, Basuma, etc., right? Ben White. I obviously know that their ability to poach a 19-year-old Paraguayan from the Latvian second division and all of a sudden he's going to score 15 Premier League goals every season. I understand their ability to do that is second to none and probably the best in the world. However, when you have such a morale dint, in a sense, when it comes to, we're on such a good run. Oh, we'll take Basuma, thank you. Oh, we're playing really good football, really intrinsic football. Cucurella's a great player in our system. Oh, we're going to take Cucurella. And I know they get reimbursed with like 60 million, but the thing is, which footballer is going to which £60 million footballer is going to want to go to Brighton instead of United or Tottenham or Villa or Everton or Newcastle or even a team like Valencia, a team like that who are far worse than Brighton on the pitch but have a far better reputation, which is probably means a lot, right? I think it's one of those things. I think they'll get there, and I think they're so good. Like, what's it like? Their team is just so, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just sexy. Like Steele in goal. All right, he's not great, but is Sanchez injured? I don't know. But Sanchez is on the bench, but like Steele in goal. I'm just going off the team that played against United. Caicedo playing out at left back, or right back even, just cause he just I mean that's how he's lined up on FotMob, just cause he can. Webster, Dunk, solid. Estepinian, solid as well. Gilmore, McAllister, great. Matoma, such a baller. He's good. But yeah, Matoma on that side, and Sensio in the middle, good. Welbeck up front, Buonanotte, Buonanotte on the other side. Where they're poaching these guys from, honestly, and then March off the bench is good. Undav is slow start but has done well. Yeah, love the Brighton, love Brighton. Very good, very good football team in my opinion. Anyways, let's move on. Spoken about title race, Big Sam, 35 minutes. Time to move on. Methinks. Let's move on to kind of a bridging talking point. Napoli win the Scudetto. I spoke about Napoli a couple of weeks ago because my close friend of mine, Daniel Naversa, wanted me to speak about them, so I decided to speak about them, and I will speak about them again this time without him having any creative control over the podcast. You have to mention it, obviously. I was gonna chuck on an Inter kit or an AC kit, and I thought that'd be a little bit disingenuous to do it today. I probably need to buy a Napoli kit, so I'll get in touch. If Daniel, if you're listening to this, send me a Napoli kit that I can wear on this podcast. But I'll go searching for one. Maybe I'm thinking 2013 Edison Cavani on the back or Lavezzi on the back or something like that. Or I might go proper old school and get like a Maradona one. I'll see. I'll figure it out. But yeah, it was a euphoric kind of weekend. The week for Napoli, obviously they've had a couple of goes at it. They drew to Salanteria, if that's even how you pronounce their name. I think midweek. I think it was midweek anyway. Yeah, so it was last Sunday. They drew to... Here we go, let's try and pronounce this one. Salernitana. Salernitana. Gee, for a while, I really can't pronounce Italian names. I mean, I'm correct at the end of the day. But that was the... If they'd won that, they could have won the league, I'm pretty sure. They drew that. They had to wait until they travelled away to Udinese, and they needed to get a point. A point secured them the win, and it was a point secured them the win, secured them the title, I should say. And it was a Victor Osimhen goal in the 52nd minute, which equalised. And of course, I saw the game out. They won. The scenes in Naples on that night, or maybe even a couple of days later, where they versus Fiorentina, a 1-1-0, another Victor Osimhen goal. The scenes from Naples, superb, unreal. Like yeah, it's a great. Like, there's a lot of unsung footballing stories that need more coverage. I don't think Napoli is one of those, because I don't think they're unsung, because they're like a great team and everyone knows how good they are. Osimhen's a world-class talent, Kvaratskhelia, world-class talent, Kim Min-jae, world-class talent, etc., right? But they're a side that needs more... Maybe the Italian league in general needs more recognition, I think. Because we saw how many Italian sides have made it very far in Europe. I think Fiorentina is still in the Conference League, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they're in the Conference League. Obviously, there'll be a Milan team in the final of the Champions League. Obviously, Inter Milan, AC Milan, two-legged Champions League semi-final. Mwah, fucking chef's kiss, honestly. But and if I'm not mistaken, there are a couple of teams in the Europa League still in Italy. It's not Lazio. Is it Atalanta, maybe, or is it Roma? I think it might be Roma. Are Roma still floating around? Yeah, Roma in the Europa League. Roma in the Europa League as well. So, and Juventus as well. There you go. So yeah, Italian football in general, I think, needs a little bit more publicity, especially in English-speaking countries. I feel, because their teams are balling out, and it was epitomised by Napoli in what they've been able to do this season with, yes, a couple of superstars in that squad, Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia, the obvious players in that, but a well-balanced, well-rounded, full of just unsung heroes who just get the job done. And it's been a long time coming. The story of the season, by far, in my opinion, especially at the elite level, yeah, it's one of those things which is like, oh yeah, this is why football's great. This is why football's great. When you see teams like Man City winning the league again, Bayern Munich potentially winning the league again, PSG winning the league again, finally getting a little bit more flavour with Arsenal as well, but obviously Napoli now even more so. Getting a little bit more flavour into the top flights in Europe is always a good thing. And Italian teams in general, right, have not really been that good over the last couple of years. Obviously, they had that golden period not that long ago, or quite a while ago, I should say, and it's kind of faded out. But it's coming back into the fore now, it seems. And Napoli win the Scudetto for the first time in far, far too long. So congratulations to them. And the first of the top 5 European leagues champions have been crowned. The next likely, I think, will be France, if I'm not mistaken. Although I do think that is still quite competitive. PSG did win on the weekend. They're 6 points clear with 4 games to go. So that could potentially be in the pipeline. Germany is quite tight, 1 point separating Dortmund or Bayern Munich and Dortmund, I should say. But I mean, Union Berlin and Freiburg are still in and amongst that top four. Freiburg 5th, Union 4th, Leipzig 3rd, which is good to see some other teams getting into that top 4 action. And then if we go to Spain, who did Spain play on the weekend? I don't think they didn't by the looks of things. So let's look at Spain. If we're going to be looking at Spain here, this obviously has been dominated by a couple of teams we all know who they are. But if we just bring up the La Liga table as I stall for time brilliantly, Barcelona, or maybe that league has been decided, has it? They are 13 points clear with 6 games to go. It's not done yet, but it will be done very soon. One more win and I think they get it done. 5-3 is 15, 16, win one more. One more. There you go. That's some quick maths for you. They win one more game, they win the league. So Barcelona are going to win the league for the first time in a couple of years, hey? Hasn't it? Hasn't it been? Yeah, for the first time since 2018-19. There you go. So maybe not some flavour, but a little bit of difference in that. But yeah, anyways, a little bit sidetracked. Napoli, congratulations. You did good. Daniel, congratulations to you. Let's segue onto another title-winning chat, and that is Scotland. Finally speaking about Scottish football. Big Ange Postecoglou. Back-to-back titles for Big Ange Postecoglou. Now, obviously, I don't have a horse in the race when it comes to Scottish football. As you can tell by my accent and by where I live and the top I'm wearing, I really don't care about Scottish football. But I've obviously taken a liking to Scottish football over the recent times because of the heavy Australian presence that litters the league. Obviously, Hearts being the main team when it comes to players. Hibs have had a couple in the last couple of years. Celtic, obviously, with Big Ange. And I think my affinity to one in particular is Ange. I adore that man with all my heart. Like, he is the number one, my favourite person in football, right? So I will follow him wherever he goes, as long as it's not Tottenham. So seeing him win back-to-back leagues, obviously he's won a couple of cups in between then, it goes to show, like, especially from an Australian perspective, but what's actually possible, right? In what is actually possible from a footballing perspective, and being able to silence the critics, silence the doubters, and just taking risks, right? Because Ange Postecoglou is a world-class manager. Like, he is a world-class manager. It's I know it's Scotland. I know he has the best team. I know he spent money, but you don't have the resume that he has. Multiple A-League trophies, or maybe not multiple, but he's got A-League trophies, Asian Cup, the Japanese League title, and then 2 Scottish leagues. It's that steady progression that is a lot more helpful than going from nowhere to somewhere overnight, because you miss out on a lot of crucial and valuable steps in that process. I think he's done the hard yards. He's been made to earn it. And I know Celtic fans won't want to say this because obviously Celtic are a massive club. I'm not doubting that for a second. I mean, just look at the scenes when they did win the league, right? And the reception he's got. Celtic are a massive club, no doubt about it. But there is obviously levels to like players, like like there is with players as managers, and there's always a level up, especially from the Scottish League, right? With all due respect, and trust me, I know the Scottish League has a lot of quality, right? So, I look, time isn't. I wouldn't say time's running out for him. How old is he? He's in his late 50s, isn't he? He's in his late 50s, isn't he? Is he? Yeah, he's 57. 57, so he's probably got 10 years left, right? 10 years, maybe 12, 13, 15 years left at that peak, right? Until he reaches 70 and probably wants to come home and retire and go back to the grassroots football. Maybe he can coach South. That'd be funny if he can go back to South Melbourne and coach. But I think maybe he'll stick it out for one more year, get the three-peat, go back to back, and then I can see him taking a big step. There will be clubs in demand. He'll be in demand. 1,000,000% he'll be in demand. And it's up to him. It's up to him whether or not he wants to take it. I would be very, very, very careful with him. I trust his judgment to pick the right option. Staying at Celtic for one more year is definitely a right option. Definitely a right option. And mate, I mean, in saying this, he could so easily just stay at Celtic for 10 years and win 10 trophies. He's that good. Celtic are that good and that well placed to do that, right? So it is one of those kind of wait and see type things. But speaking out from an Australian perspective, he's the best, right? He's the best. He's the best kind of football. I spoke about this last year. Him and Sam Kerr, they're the two best footballing exports that are currently in football, kind of playing / in the football eye, who are active in football in some respect, I should say. Obviously, you have likes of Kuhl, Viduka, and these type of players, right? Cahill as well, who have done good stuff in the past, right? But to me, he's the best. Like, he's the best thing that has come out of this country from a football perspective. It's like, and what frustrates me the most is how we treat him. How we disregarded him, how we disrespected him, and he pissed off and found another home in Japan and then pissed off again and has found a home in Scotland. I hope there can be some reconciliation happening there. It would break my heart if there wasn't an opportunity for that to happen. Obviously, I'm not saying he should be the Australian national team coach by any means, but I'm just saying, he's the thing that this country should be the most proud of when it comes to football, because he is a product of everything that traditionally and to non-football purists shouldn't get you far in football. Because for those who aren't Australian, obviously, for those who don't know, there is a massive backlash towards the sport of football in this country, right? And I could be doing a whole podcast about this. It comes down to a lot of different factors. Anyway, for those who know, you know, and for those who don't know, look it up. You have Google for a reason. But he's the epitome of what should fail in the eyes of a lot of people who don't love this sport. Grew up as a person of ethnic background, parents were migrants, dad couldn't speak English, and he went to football, a game for the migrants, Sheila's Logs and Poofters, all that good stuff. And he applied straight in the NSL. Then he won how many titles for South Melbourne, then he coached in the NSL. I think he may have won a couple of titles for South as a coach. Then he went to the A-League, which we all know people's opinions about the A-League. Was very successful in the A-League. Then he went to the Socceroos. We all know people's opinion about the Socceroos, especially on average across the last maybe 20 years. Succeeded at the Socceroos level. Then he went overseas, and to a lot of people, it's Europe or bust. It's why you're going to go to Asia when Europe's a lot better. You're not going to succeed if you go to Asia. What's the point? Goes to Asia, succeeds. Then he goes to Europe. But once he goes to Europe, it's, you can only make it in Scotland. You're not even good enough for the Premier League, etc., etc. Like, why are you going to Scotland? You're not going to succeed in Scotland. There's no point, etc., etc. Wins 2 leagues. He's doubted critics all along the way, and he's been a person who has not taken no for an answer all along the way. And I think that is very indicative of I don't want to use this word, but it kind of ties back to the Socceroos, which we've spoken about countless times on this podcast, and the Aussie DNA, right? Backs against the wall, no one thinks you can do it. Sticking the two fingers up and say, you know what, I'll show you what I can do. I just love that man with all my heart. Like it's not like it's beyond a football kind of. I love his tactics, or I love the way that he plays, or I love how he approaches stuff in the media. It's beyond all of that, right? It's what he stands for as a person, and except all that good stuff. If you hear him speak, he's so charismatic, so inspirational, and I think as a coach, he's world class as well. Above all else, as a person, he's great. As a coach, he's world class. Combining the two to make a fucking unreal football manager. Anyway, that's enough of my love piece to Ange Postecoglou. If you're listening, Ange, subscribe. Okay, moving on. Let's move on. Let's touch on some A-League chat. So let's actually keep in line with the Australian theme a little bit. Speak on some A-League chat. All right, finals kicked off. Quickly, for those who know, I'm not going to be speaking about the redacted podcast, as has been coined on Twitter. I'm not going to speak about the Born Offside podcast and their interview with Danny Townsend. I watched it. I thought it was fine. I didn't really expect anything more of it because of the nature of it. Like, that podcast isn't a hard-hitting current affairs journalistic podcast. The podcast show generally week to week is great stuff, and I thought that interview was fine. I thought it was great. I'm not going to speak about it if you come here for that shit. Move on. For those who know what I'm speaking about, there you go. For those who don't, just move on. It's not important. Okay. A-League chat. Finals kicked off. Started off with Adelaide versus Wellington. And despite it being finals, not a lot to speak about. Obviously, Adelaide got the job done 2-0, as I predicted. Thank you very much. Goodwin with 2 goals. Penalty for the second to ice the game just after the hour mark. Yeah, as I predicted, really. I just thought Adelaide would be too strong, especially at Cooper's. If you watched the A-League predictions, A-League finals preview video that I did for the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel alongside 2 very beautiful contributors from the Inner Sanctum, you would know that the point was raised in that video that it was a very annoying game for Adelaide. It was a very annoying game because it was very unnecessary for this game to be played, because they should have at least gotten the point. They should have at least gotten a point against Central Coast in the last game at home. They go in with the week off and they kind of kick on from there, right? But it was this, now we've got to versus Wellington. It's Adelaide should beat Wellington, right? And they did quite comfortably as well, right? That shouldn't be the issue. But what it is it's a potential banana skin that didn't need to be there, which just creates that extra layer of, oh, fuck, we can't lose this, right? So I thought they managed to block out all the mental stuff quite well, and they did the job that needed to be done. Not a lot to speak about from that game, because it was just a really just solid performance, solid, comfortable 2-0 win. Thank you very much for Adelaide. Moving on to the week after, or to the day after. Here we have some talking points. Okay, Western Sydney versus Sydney FC. Do I speak about the boycotts? Okay. I spoke about this maybe last week or the week before. Boycotting the finals. You want to boycott the finals, you boycott the finals. You don't want to boycott the finals, you don't boycott the finals. I don't care. I probably would have. If victory were there, I probably would have boycotted the finals, maybe. I don't know, because my team isn't in there, so I can't tell you for fact. But I probably would have. Do I begrudge those who didn't? No, I don't really care all that much. Do I think that if you went to the if you went to the finals, you're a scab or a bootlicker, as has been coined on Twitter? I don't care. I don't care. Boycott the grand final, please. That's all I care about. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's speak about some football. So I had a lot of expectations for this game. I thought Western Sydney were going to win. I thought they were just a better side overall. I just thought that they were the better side, and I know derbies tend to kind of mitigate that gap between teams. How many times have we seen shit team beat a good team, but the reason they beat them is because it's a derby and they wanted it more and all this stuff, right? So I knew that would mitigate the kind of effect of it. That's why I went with 1-0 in extra time. I I thought Sydney were going to hold on resiliently and not allow Western Sydney to get a proper foothold into the game and get proper flow and kind of I don't know how you describe it, tempo into the game maybe. And I thought that would just eventually would break in extra time and West Sydney would go away with 1-0 win. But I was very surprised with the way the game panned out, to be honest. I was very interested. I was very surprised in how the game panned out. So I obviously was looking at the game from a couple of different perspectives. I was like, okay, what's the storyline in a sense going to be from this game? And funnily enough, the storyline actually came out after the game, which we'll speak on. But it obviously was a 1-0 lead early on for Western Sydney. Morgan Schneiderlin penalty. Was it a penalty? Who knows? Probably, sure, whatever. And then it was a lowly-less Sydney FC trying to overcome a 1-0 deficit away from home with no active support. Massive task, right? Massive task. And I was looking at that thinking there's no way they're going to do it. I didn't back Sydney's ability to score goals without conceding, let alone scoring 2 without conceding again, if that makes sense. So when Max scores the first one, I'm thinking they can't do it, can they? They can't do it, can they? And then 80th minute, ball whipped in, Lafondra at the near post. Lafondra at the near post kind of swings onto it, flicks it back across goal, and it goes past Lawrence Thomas, and it's in. And I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, this is happening. It's insane, right? I thought, wow, this is typical finals, isn't it? And of course, the game sees out. It's all over. Sydney go through, and the narrative around Sydney fans boycotting, Sydney going away from home to West Bank, with the RBB not boycotting for their home game, first final for Western Sydney in however long, their best season in however long, Sydney's worst season in quite a long time, and Sydney still being better and still overcoming Western Sydney. I thought that's... Schadenfreude in me says it's a great story. I know Western Sydney supporters are going to disagree heavily. Sydney supporters are going to be very on board with it, but it's one of those A-League stories, right? And the thing is, like I said, you can question the quality. I mean, you can't because the quality is good, but you can question it if you want. You can question the management. You can't question the entertainment factor. You can't question the storylines. You can't question the narratives around it. Another peak A-League kind of performance and spectacle. Barring obviously the crowd, but we all know the reasons why those were quite low in relative to what they should have been. However, what made headlines after the game, Ninkovic doing something so bizarre. Obviously, former Sydney FC player going into the Sydney FC dressing rooms to congratulate his former teammates on beating him and his side in a semi-final, and then getting into a biff with, I assume, Steve Corica. I don't know who it was. And that, of course, going viral on Twitter and Jamie Carragher retweeting it. One of the most bizarre things you're ever going to see. And just another thing that just puts the A-League up there in terms of entertainment factor and just stupidness and just can't take your eyes off it factor for... even the game's finished. The game's done and there's still shit going on. How good's this, right? But no, I thought it was just bizarre. Bizarre from all involved. Weird. I thought Ninkovic was going to be a big player in this game. I thought it was more going to be 120th minute free kick, Ninkovic steps over it, whips it top corner, Western Sydney win 1-0. That type of narrative. I didn't think it would be going into the opposition team's, his former team's dressing room, and then starting a biff with his former head coach. I didn't think that would be the case, but it was, so there you go. It is what it is, there you go. It's quite funny how things work out. But yeah, that of course gives us wraps up the game. We get the semi-finals on this weekend, do we? Yeah, first leg, Sydney versus Melbourne City in Sydney. We'll give a preview of that at the end. And then, of course, Adelaide versus Central Coast, Should be a great game, first leg. All right, that is all. Thank you very much. Actually, preview. Let me preview. Let me segue into the preview and then we'll finish things up. All right. Yeah. Let's preview the games. Okay, so the Premier League that is happening. Preview. There you go. Let's say Champions League, Real Madrid, Man City first leg at the Bernabeu. I'm going to go with Man City. Real Madrid 2-1. Real Madrid 2-1. Inter versus or AC versus Inter. AC's home game. 1-1. That's going to be a good game. Juventus Sevilla in Europa League. I'm going to go 1-1 again. Roma Leverkusen 2-0 Roma. Sydney versus Melbourne City. First leg in Sydney. I think City will be too good. 2-0 City. And they're going to go back to Amy with a 2-0 lead. Yeah, forget about it. Sorry, Sydney. I think City will be too good. And then Adelaide Central Coast. That's going to be a great game. That's going to be such a good two-legged tie. Such a good two-legged tie. If you aren't an A-League fan, firstly, I don't know why you'd be listening, but thank you for the retention. But please try and get around this two-legged tie. Adelaide versus Central Coast. Both legs will combine for very, very entertaining football, I promise you. Two very entertaining teams. A lot of storylines, a lot of high-profile players around them. Please watch it. It'll be great. In saying that, I'm going to go with at Cooper's. I know I did my predictions last week, but I'm going to do them differently this week because this is more vibes. I really liked how Adelaide played. I think they got a chip on their shoulder from that 4-1 defeat. I'm going to go Adelaide 2, Central Coast 0. That's what I think is going to happen. And then a bunch of Prem games. Geez, a bunch of midnight games. Holy shit. And then nothing really important. Arsenal Brighton. Arsenal win. Please, Sean Dyche get a result against City. Please, I need some things to speak about. All right, that is all. Thank you very much for watching another episode of the 2 Foot Attacker podcast. I've really enjoyed doing this episode. Make sure you subscribe to the 2 Foot Attacker podcast. It would mean the world. 2 more away for 400. If we could get that quite soon, that would be more than appreciated. It would mean the world to me. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, notification bell so you don't miss out on any podcasts or any clips. Socials, 2 Foot Attacker podcast on Instagram and TikTok, 2FTPod on Twitter. There's a link in the bio of both Twitter and Instagram for all your 2 Foot Attacker podcast needs. All the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. That is all. That was probably my best ever run through of all the plugging of the socials and stuff. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below. Tweet at me if you've got any questions. Do all that good stuff. But yeah, see you guys next week. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for sticking around. See you guys next week. Goodbye.